Good afternoon, and welcome to our session. This afternoon it is Expand Your Business with SAP S4HANA. My name is Richard Stratner. I work on the SAP S4HANA team, and I am joined today by several of our customers, and we're going to talk about this idea of expansion, utilization of S4HANA, how it all comes together. Kip, could I ask you to introduce yourself, and we'll move on down.
Kip Miles, I run IT for Yeti Coolers.
Manish Sinha, I'm heading IT for Vectus Industries.
And I'm Sharon Kaiser, and I'm the CIO at New England Biolabs out of Ipswich, Massachusetts.
I'm Hiren Shah. I'm VP of Digital for Intrigo Systems in California.
Thank you. Welcome. So we're talking about growth. Growth tends to be a pretty good idea, right? That's what we all want. But growth can come in different ways for different kinds of businesses. So Manish, I'm going to start with you. And I understand Vectus is in the process of growing through transformation. You're kind of moving from one business into another. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's what the insights, we went live in April 2016. And from there, when we got a lot of insights, when we integrated our mobile app with the SAP S4HANA, the insights related to the plumbing community in India and related to the architect community. So from there, we thought that when we are into water storage tank manufacturing, why not we try to do a water cleaning service? So from there, for that, we need to have a lead management system, and we thought that, okay, why not give a try to this cleaning? At least a customer would get a peace of mind when he is getting from the manufacturer the cleaning service as well. Because we all buy water tank, but we don't, at the time when it comes to the cleaning, it just simply skips from our mind. So that's what the insights which we got, and we got that, okay, why not to have an application designed in such a way so that customer could get an insight and we could get a tank's insight at the place and the corporate office where we can run those campaigns to do the water cleaning.
So as you're building your business, you're identifying new markets, like a new a new type of business, I guess.
Yes.
But at Yeti, the expansion is into other physical markets, correct?
Yeah, Yeti started in Austin, Texas. Our primary customers are in what we call SEC country, from Texas down to Florida and up into the Carolinas. We have a very good penetration there. In some areas like the Northeast, Northwest, not as much. We started with just coolers, and we added categories in soft coolers and drinkware, and we will expand 3 different ways. One throughout the U.S., just additional penetration into the markets that we're not in, adding new product categories, and then internationally as well. We've probably grown about 7x in the last 3 years. Okay,
so building on that idea, how did your implementation of S4HANA impact that decision? So I guess the first question is really chicken or egg. Was S4 the driving force behind the ability to do so, or was there a business drive to expand and then S4 was the means by which you thought you could achieve it?
So our legacy ERP system couldn't keep up with our transaction volume, so we were almost at a crisis point that we were inhibiting the growth of the company through systems. So we looked at the landscape and said, what type of system can take us to a multi-billion-dollar company? And there's only 2 usual suspects, and realizing that everybody's moving to their cloud platforms, SAP's was much more advanced, better aligned our business model, especially as a consumer products company, and provided those capabilities that we're going to need to grow not only in just products but internationally as well.
And I want to come back to that platform idea a little bit later, but for the immediate, let's move over to New England Biolabs. So there are a couple of elements that have been critical so far that we've heard about S4, maybe transparency, evidence that allows people to move forward. What's the rationale at New England Biolabs, Sharon?
Well, in our case, it was sort of a unique situation where the company decided to implement SAP back in 2014, and what they did was they implemented finance and controlling, sales and distribution, and a little bit of materials management where we can capture our finished goods inventory. But then I came on board, and their phase 2 was always about moving production planning and execution into SAP. But it was around that time where S4HANA started coming out, and you started hearing more about it, and I knew that was the direction that SAP was going. So the decision point was really, do we go ahead with phase 2 on ECC 6 and then in a couple years have the company go through a major upgrade and a transition? So made the decision to let's see how S4HANA plays out, make sure it's enterprise ready. So we went on a path then to get ourselves ready. So we upgraded to Enhancement Pack 7, we moved to Suite on HANA last year, and then last summer we did a proof of concept with S4HANA 15.11 just to make sure all the functionality was in the platform and ready for us, which it was. So everything was good, and so we kicked off our project last August. And of course, then 1610 was about ready to go out. So we went and became part of the beta program.
Okay.
And got early access to the software. Really ran it through the mill. And it was a good thing to be on the beta program because every time we found a problem, it got immediately addressed.
Right.
And it was great. So then when the general release came out in October, we then moved to the SAP Customer Care Program for early adopters. And that, again, has been a godsend for us and has helped us go through. There wasn't really a lot of technical issues. There was things that, it's a new platform, so yes, there is going to be some. But overall, we've been very happy, and we're going live in the next month, so we're real close to it.
So you mentioned the early adopter customer care program, and I'm wondering, oftentimes it's a bold move to be an early adopter, and not everybody feels comfortable enough to do that. What was it that empowered you to be able to go forward with it?
Well, it was. I knew I wasn't going to want to ask the company in 2 years to upgrade to S4HANA. So, and we had a lot of experience when we did the proof of concept. We really got a look at what S4 was, and we were already on Suite on HANA, so we knew HANA, and there was little risk for us, really.
Interesting. So. Kip, you also at Yeti used that program, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And what was your experience?
Well, it was really good to get the extra hands-on approach. No project runs perfect, so there's always going to be a time or two that you have to put on your little angry hat and start talking to people tersely. And but the good thing was this: is that any issues that we came up with, especially because that extra care that we were getting, were resolved pretty much within a week. Ship was righted. I was happy again, and then we'd move on.
And you no longer had to speak tersely to people?
No.
Very good. Hiran, your company's in an interesting position because you are both a user of S4HANA as your organization, as well as a partner. Talk a little bit about that dynamic.
Well, I can tell you what motivated us to go towards S4HANA Cloud. We're a professional services firm, and beginning 2015, we started growing nationwide. Mm-hmm. And beginning last year, we became global. And we had a separate billing system, a separate system to capture the time, a separate system for all of our sales. And it was clearly getting to the point, like Kip mentioned in his business, that it was becoming difficult to plan for resources or to figure out whether you're billing for what work has been performed. And it was time to really figure out a strategy. And that was about the time when SAP had really made an emphasis on the cloud application. So we decided to do it. And it has been a very interesting journey. And the fact that, and the question that you asked is, how does it interplay with our role as a partner?
Right.
And when we go and talk to our clients about S4HANA Cloud, and when they ask us about if you got a reference customer, we just have to point to ourselves because we went live 2 or 3 weeks ago. But more than that,
I'm sorry,
I think,
did you say 14 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I was asking the question. And you're still standing.
Yes, that's
a good sign. Excellent.
There's somebody speaking very tersely earlier, 2 weeks back. But
What's even better is you went live 2 weeks ago and you still could come here.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe that's proof of concept. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So no, just to answer a question, so it really helps when you talk to other fast-growing companies and explain to them, saying that if you have, every fast-growing company has the ambition of becoming a global company. But up until an application like this, you feel that you have to grow with smaller applications. So now it is easier for us to make the point saying that you can have access to functionality that Fortune 500 companies have.
Right.
And we are an example of doing that.
Now, let me build on that, and then we can ask some of the other panelists about this also. You mentioned the fact that you are running on S4HANA Cloud.
That's right.
How did you decide that was the appropriate deployment option for you? For your company, I should say.
Yeah, my response would be similar to the response we get with when we talk to companies who are growing quickly, and the opportunity cost of investing in resources to put in your own infrastructure, maintain the hardware and the software is too high because that time can be spent in doing something else. So the cloud infrastructure, and as Sharon also pointed out, when they did an analysis, they found that the cloud has the functionality that you need. So there's no issue with functionality. So you almost have to ask yourself, what is the compelling reason for you to not look at a cloud-first option? And we could not find one.
Okay, sort of the converse approach. There is no downside. However, Kip, you use HANA Enterprise Cloud, correct? At Yeti?
Yes.
So what was the rationale there?
So we follow something that we call the tenets of digital transformation. And if you're really wanting to be what I call a 21st century IT team working for a 21st century company and enable you to really do digital transformation, we have a 100% cloud approach. So we want everything in the cloud. We want little to no customization. We want, I have one programmer, and it's because I have to have one programmer, but I don't want to write code, and I'm a programmer, because I don't think 21st century companies should be writing code anymore. And the reason for this is, you look at S4HANA, and S4HANA does 4 upgrades a year, okay? If you were best of class ERP customer, you were probably upgrading your ERP system once every 3 years. Well, that means you're skipping 11 releases. So you have to be, I mean, if you start thinking about the cloud and digital transformation, you have to be in a mode to be able to transition quickly. So our goal is to be able to upgrade at least twice a year, actually only twice a year, because we want to avoid our 2 peak seasons, Father's Day and Christmas. But then we'll just more or less skip every other release. That's our goal, and a minimum of once a year. And to do that, you have to be cloud-based. You have to not be doing the infrastructure. You don't want to be doing the things that, frankly, you never get credit for. Plus, I want to avoid the question of a CFO or a CEO saying, what are these people over here really doing? They'll never understand the answer. So,
fair enough, fair enough. But to provide a counterpoint, Manish, you're on-prem. So
Yes.
what was your rationale for that?
We started this journey 2015. At that moment of time, none of the public cloud service provider was having these facilities available. So from there, what we did is we bought our own hardware with the HANA appliances, and those were the pre-configured. Based on that pre-configuration, we saved 1.5 months of time, and we went live 24 locations in just 4.5 months of time, and we did a big bang. So that was the scenario at our time. And we co-located our hardware at a data center. And the same case was there in my team also, only 4 team members are there. And across India, we are supporting 30 locations. So that was the scenario at our time when we moved to this. And we were also a part of this customer care program by SAP. And I was in touch with the project coach from Germany. And as you were asking, the frustrating part was even we were doing the project, but the team was there for reviewing our process and the progress. So every weekend, I used to get the things and just reporting to my coach that, okay, we did with that. Then I gave a task to my coach that, okay, why not you send someone in person to our place? And then he listened to me, and on that moment of time, because no trainings were available, no new release notes were there when we decided to move on with this 15.11 version in November 2015. It just got released, and even with the consultants also, they were having that much clarity. What are the configuration changes? How many tables have been moved, and how the developers would be writing the codes? So that moment of time, the in-person resource helped us when he came, and the number of notes were getting released, 150 pages, 100 pages. So that guy was really helping us and getting the central theme of those notes and educating our implementation partner as well as the consultants so that we can move towards our goal. That is how we achieved in just 4.5 months of time a big bang of 24 locations.
Okay. How about New England Biolabs? What about your deployment option?
Yeah, we moved to Symmetry as our hosting provider.
Okay.
One of the big reasons is the New England Biolabs campus is beautiful. It's on a 130-acre old estate with a I work in a mansion, basically an old mansion, and the data center was in the basement of that mansion with windows that were known to leak. So it was not a wise place for a data center to start with. So moving it to the cloud and being hosted was our best option.
Interesting. So, I mean, perhaps this is why SAP provides the options, right? There are different ways of looking at it, different opportunities, and I think that breadth of option is really one of the critical elements. Something occurred to me just before we got on stage, and it was the fact that we're talking about growth, right? And growth is so often associated with business or the business, and yet here we have 4 people from the IT side. So what I want to explore a little bit is this relationship between business and IT. What kind of unity you see? Did S4 provide that for you? Was it an impetus for it? That kind of idea, because I think we're starting to see a blending of the two. That's really where I'm going with this, and I'd be interested, whomever would like to share first, what your sense of alignment between IT and the business. I mean, Kip, you're right here. Sure.
It's sometimes very difficult to get the business to actually own your projects because they're never IT projects. We've gone through a lot of change at Yeti. When we kicked off the project, 70% of the company had been there less than 12 months. When we kicked off the project, the CEO had 5 months of tenure and the CFO had 3 months of tenure.
Okay.
So, and what was really great is that the CFO obviously was going to become the executive sponsor. We had monthly steering committee meetings, and the CEO would never allow anyone to step out. And he actually got personally involved in the project, and he told people that this is not an IT project. If it fails, it's because of us. It's not because of IT. And it was good because it was a good time for us in our transition and our growth, and it allowed us to rally around that and establish. Our CEO would say, I don't even want Kip to answer who's the number 1 and 2 user of your teams. Give me their names. I'm going to talk to them the week before we go live because I want to see if they think they're ready. Because I don't want to poll anybody else. And that was great. And it was sort of funny. I had one executive that said, hey, who are my top 2 users? And I wouldn't answer. I said, you need to go figure that out. But it allowed to get a lot more engagement. And that rippled all the way through the organization. And now we have strong business process owners. When people come up with an idea that says, hey, I'd like to change invoicing, and it's like, well, you work in sales. Invoicing is managed or owned, that process is owned by the controller. Go talk to the controller. If she thinks it's a good idea, we'll add it to the list. But we are not even going to add it to the list until you talk to the business process owner. And getting the business to talk about business processes and not making it an IT thing.
Mm-hmm. So if I were to distill that, it sounds like S4 kind of, maybe not provided the impetus, provided like a single rallying point, a unifying point.
It was a catalyst.
Catalyst, thank you, exactly.
It's my science background, sorry.
Manish, how about you?
Yeah, for us, from the very first day of the kickoff, we made it very clear that it's not an IT project. And we got the commitment from the management board that they have to be on their toes when they have to give us the decision. And that was the authority, because our scenario was every remote location was our station where we have to implement. And across India, when you are traveling from one state to states, that captures your time. So that is why we requested and we got the support from the management that, okay, whosoever is there, we just give the decision over the call itself. Because they do have their foreign travels also during the implementation, and we also have the master data preparation was the tough job, and when the BPOs were not giving us those answers. So it was a management push that you have to complete these master data on that time, whatever the cutoff we have given to them. So that was a kind of involvement from the management board. That is how we got successful in our project. The other area which we focus from the day one, whether it's a BPO, core user, end user, or the management, even the auditors and the implementation partner, we gave the single message across the team that we have to collaborate rather than compete. We have to make this project successful. It's not a thing that, okay, if I am finishing my job, I am just sending an email to the BPO that you have to finish your job in time. No. Even if he requires, because what happens when you are starting a project, people are not aware of the things, how this route would be leading to. So we have to hold each other's hand. If I am losing the direction, other could come and he can move in the right direction. That's what the formula we used. And in the go live, when we were moving to the go live, so what we did is from the auditor itself, we requested rather than giving us a list where we could see and we could got scared that we cannot go live, just give us the list 1 month prior that what are go live criticals area.
Gotcha.
So that also saves a lot of time when you are doing a project. That these were the things where we keep focusing on during the project implementation. That is how we got success in our project.
Hiren, I saw you nodding your head there for a while, and I think it started right around when Manish was saying, collaborate, not compete. Was that your experience also, or?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I echo the experiences. For us also, it was definitely a business project. It was just amazing how quickly we got the business involved, because as opposed to a usual project where we would spend time maybe talking through the installation of the software, procuring the hardware, disaster recovery, backup, etc. We went right into, here's your system, go at it. And within a week or so, you outline what your legal entities are and your details, and you have it. And we literally handed out the scripts that come with the system, saying that, okay, Mr. Finance, here are your processes, procurement, sales, and they start testing it. And that's really how it was. And of course, there were hiccups because you don't know where to click and everything like that.
Sure.
But the point being that what you would assume that you would be doing testing at the end of some period of months, we did that pretty much in the second week.
Nice, nice. Sharon, what about you?
Yeah, we had very similar experiences where we wanted to make sure that it was not an IT-driven project. So we didn't even start until the business said they were ready. And that was one of the things that we identified as a risk factor on the project, was not only the business resource availability, but their involvement in the project. And that's one of the risks that has been green the whole way through, because what we saw was they really jumped into it. If you can imagine, this is a 40-year-old company, privately held, and they were running their production planning and execution, their manufacturing floor, all manually, by hand. There was no system backing them up. And also, the company is run by scientists, so it was built by scientists for scientists, and many of these scientists have been there their whole career from when they graduated from college. And how they made their products were in their heads or written down in a paper lab notebook on their shelf.
Right.
And so our executive director over production, that was a little worrisome for him. And so he's been, of course, the executive sponsor on the project, and really keen to get those product managers, those scientists, to document how they make the products, so that we can create the bills of materials. And so that's actually been where the majority of our time has been spent on the project, is getting that information digitized into a system.
Right. I think Kip, Hiren, you both mentioned the word hiccup, which of course never happens at SAP. But in reality, IT projects do have points of stumbling. So I think it's worthwhile for us to perhaps call out, like, what's the biggest challenge that you faced that you had to overcome in the S4 implementation?
So
feel free to say nothing, but
we didn't have any business processes documented at all. We didn't have data owners. We didn't have business process owners.
Okay.
We didn't have an intranet. We didn't have a training system. We didn't have any organization change management had ever been done there before.
Wow.
But beyond that, it was easy. And so what we did was we embedded 4 people from the business. We took the controller of the company. We took the director of sales operations, the manager of procurement, and employee number 6. And we pulled them out of the business. We created a separate war room. And we backfilled those roles. We hired a new controller just to do this project. And the reason is because we needed people that were truly dedicated to this. You know how it goes. Most people don't get interested in about a project until about 30 days out.
Right.
Well, that means your blueprinting is going to have a problem. So it caused one unique issue, though. Because things changed so fast at Yeti, they started losing what was happening in their old departments. So some of the business was changing while we did that. I mean, we added 3 international locations. We added a retail outlet. We added all these different things during the project that weren't part of the scope before the project started.
Right.
So that was the downside of it, but the advantages were we ended up with 4 super users that are truly assets to the IT department because they know the system inside and out, and they've been redeployed to other areas after it. So that it was definitely worth the investment.
Just out of curiosity, does employee number 6 have a name, or is that just how you refer to him at Yeti?
Micah Thompson, he's here.
Okay, very good.
Actually, we also had employee number 1. He was the director of operations. He set up payroll, so he says he's employee number 1 because he set himself up as
Seems
number
reasonable.
1.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kieran, what about you? What kind of challenges did you face?
Well, we had some delays when it came to having access and provisioning the cloud systems because you have the queue box and the production box. And once the cloud systems are deployed, then most of the company has had some exposure to the on-prem world. So we were trying to discover, okay, what can you touch and feel and what is not available? And we were trying to come to terms with that. And when we were interacting with a coach, when the coach was fantastic, without their support, it would have been very difficult. And there is a whole support organization, and that's also coming up to speed as to how to go about activating these kind of functionalities. Then what helped us get through that was to kind of turn it around on its head and say, hey, if you're going to be in this business, if you're going to take this solution to our clients, let's use this as an experience so that we learn, so that when we ever did it for a client, we would be able to foresee it. So when we kind of started to look at it that way,
right,
as if it's an internal training program, then it was easier to get through all of that.
So it was the way you framed it.
That's right.
Well done. Manish, how about you?
Let me tell you our situation. There was 2 years back, there was no IT department. When I joined the organization, the server downtime was 4 hours a day. That was the downtime which the organization was having, and that was last 4 years. That was the track for the last 4 years. And email servers always blacklisted. The security was 0. From there, we started our journey. We did, one hand we were working on the infrastructure side, because even if I am getting the best of the breed cloud or getting my hardware deployed on the cloud, if I am not ready with the infrastructure at the plant level, at the depot level, then my project is going to be failed. Now imagine a scenario where at one hand we are all the across 28 locations, 30 locations, we are creating the infrastructure, we are creating the server staging also for them, and meanwhile we are implementing this also. So you can imagine traveling time, the change management which we have gone through, and that is why I use the word collaboration. From the very first day, because I analyzed the scenario that okay, we cannot do it in a kind of one-sided approach. No, we have to collaborate with every user I met there at the plant level, at the depot level. I have conveyed the message that okay, there would be something special for you when you would be changing and coming up into this project, onboarding this project and making this project successful. This message worked. It's not always about that money or something you are incentivized the project, no. But that is the responsibility of the CIO or the project manager also when they connect with the people on the floor. Because you can put n number of softwares, but you do not have the people who are using it, your project is going to be failed. So that was the message which we try to give to every single user, whether it's a core user, end user or the BPO. So that worked in our case. That is how, when it comes to the hurdle, we got certain pitfalls also related to the master data preparation. What happens when you are doing the nomenclature for your master data items, you immediately move to the plant. Why? Because you have all the materials there. In our case, what happened, we also did the same practice. What happened at the end when we were doing the cutover strategy, we have to have the stocks for each item, and that too with the new codes which we have created in SAP. So what we did is that by mistake we forgot to take those items which were there at the depot but were not getting produced at the plant. So imagine a scenario in a 3-4 day time you have to go live. It was a chance that those were certain 20, 50 items were there. So that is how we managed to prepare the codes. We managed to get the MRP view, the production, all the production master data, because that format itself is too big, and getting even 50 items or the 100 items code getting in just 4 days time, that's a huge task. So that is the area where we saw that we got stuck. But somehow, since the items were less in the number, so we managed that situation.
Gotcha. Sharon, to you.
Yeah.
Do your scientists have any challenges?
We do have a lot of challenges. It's not only in the data gathering part and documenting what it takes to build our products, but also into having them understand the criticality of making sure that master data is correct. Mm-hmm. So they've never had a system before. So having missing data or having inaccurate data, that impacts your MRP runs. Mm-hmm. It impacts the accuracy of your product costing. And that's, we've never had that before. So we're trying to instill in them the need to make sure the master data is correct.
Right.
So that the system can work correctly and that they would have faith then in the results on the MRP runs.
It's almost kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean, you would think that a scientist would be so rigorous about data, right?
Yeah,
within terms of the scope of their experimentation.
Their own experiments, yeah.
But when it comes to, corporate data, maybe it's less so.
Well, they're all interested in the research. Producing product and selling it, they don't care. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, I have 2 more questions for you. And the first is this. Here we have an audience. We have a virtual audience. And some folks are considering S4, right? So knowing that you've experienced it, you're benefiting it from what we've understood so far, what's the one piece of advice, the one thought that you would share with somebody who is considering it? And anybody can jump in and start.
I'll start.
Please.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing I would say is don't be afraid of it. Consider it a major upgrade. So with that, you always have, there's a lot of testing that you've got to do. Your data migration is probably going to be bigger than you always considered and thought. Consider, there's a few things. Over 95% of the transactions are still there. So if you're on an ECC platform, it's not that different. You can still use the GUI. You can bring Fiori in as a launchpad, but just remember, there is going to be some change. Some things you got to look at with a new business partner concept. Some of your old user excerpts that you might have had in the customer or the vendor masters may not work. So it's just, plan well, but don't be afraid of it.
I was just going to say, that sounds like good guidance for life, right? Plan well, but don't be afraid.
So, we had to go out of necessity, but I always tell people there's 3 main reasons why people blame the ERP system, and from the bottom up. One is bugs in the system, and that's usually not the issue. One is people don't follow the process correctly, and the number 1 issue is they mess up the data, okay? So you got to think about that as you implement the project and say, when I get out of that, what am I going to do? How am I going to manage it? So we didn't have master data governance. We didn't have master data management. We didn't do any of those things. We instituted that on our way out, okay? We used tools, and you see, if you're going to do this, take advantage of it. So we took advantage of it in many ways. Like I said, we implemented an intranet. We implemented a learning management system. We did all these things because it was the right way to make the project more successful. But the organization needs these disciplines and tools anyways. So look at the project as from a point of, hey, there's more I can get out of this than just the S4 migration itself. I can make the business better at the way they manage data. I get a chance to clean the data. I get a chance to, so we took full advantage of it. It reminded me of the old PCI days, okay? No one would ever do security, and when PCI came out, I said, yes, I can actually get the CFO to get behind this because there's a $500,000 penalty if we're ever breached. Great. Now I can get security done. So you can get other things done with this project because it's the right thing to do without really pork barreling it.
Nice. All right, Hiran, you're a partner. What's your one piece of advice?
Well, there's a part A, B, C to that advice because I see clients fall in 3 categories, one of 3 categories. The first one is it's a net new where they're looking at a brand new implementation,
right,
or a brand new system. And there I think it's almost easier from the conversations that I've had because to communicate the fact that now you do have access, so you have to shed the old inhibitions that you might have with SAP being big and expensive and complex and all of that. that it is much different, and you can actually take exactly what you want and then move on. So that's for the people who are looking at a brand new implementation. The second category is somebody who already has an SAP instance, and they are thinking as what to do, but they're not quite ready to move to S4.
Okay.
But they have satellite offices, so they may have an office which only does procurement in another location, or there may be an office which is only a service center. So those end up being excellent examples of where you could use S4 because of the ease of use by which you could roll up all of the finances into the corporate mothership or the original SAP instance.
Right.
The third one is the toughest one, where you almost have to look at doing a revamp or upgrading or going towards S4 when you already have had an SAP instance for a while. And there the advice is just look, the primary concern is usually the customizations that may have been done. And there the advice is just take a hard look at it as to, do you really think that the customizations that were done more than 5 years ago, are they really still a competitive advantage, or are they a hindrance to you innovating?
Right.
And compare and contrast that with the burden of maintaining those customizations.
Fair enough. Manish?
So what should I say? You know my situation and our situation, where we started and from where we are right now. So when we can do it, definitely anyone can do it. So that's my piece of, I should not say that's an advice, but you should have a belief in yourself that you can do it. When you will put the right keyword, you will get the correct answers, as we do in the search engines. So from the very first day, we need to put the right keywords in our mind so that we can get the ideas, the people, and the situations along the project. So that is how we have to continue. See, technology changes will be there when you are moving from one phase to another. There would be changes in the technology, in the scenario, the business scenario would also be changing. It is not that it's a one time you are doing it and it will be run all the way through the life, no. So those things will be keep changing, but what the strategy that we have to keep in our mind, we have to treat our human resources throughout the project, after the project very well. They will make the project successful. So that is the area where we need to put more focus on.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, I know I had said 2 questions, but I'm glancing at the clock, and I don't think we have time for the second. So by all means, please do join us in the discussion room. I'll ask the question then, and maybe you can participate there. But for now, thank you all so very much for sharing your experiences and insights.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for attending.
Thank
Have a
you.
good afternoon.
Thank you.